So I did it. I bought a StudioBricks, and I am currently in it, which is obvious. That's stupid. So obviously StudioBricks is amazing, and they're a renowned company and everyone knows who they are. They're kind of now the gold standard of like isolation booths at home, so I'm not gonna really dig into them too much or hype all the things that everyone already kind of hypes about StudioBricks, though I may touch on a few things that are fairly commonplace to hype. But for the most part, I want to kind of dig in on the things that I don't like first and get those out of the way, because really my overall opinion is that I love this booth and it was worth the money for me in my particular situation. So let's talk about it. First, the things I don't necessarily love about this booth. Some of the parts came not exactly in tip-top shape. So for example, there's a shelf in here that's pretty cool that I get to rest, a ring light on and my interface and mouse and keyboard. However, one of the bolts that screws it into the wall was bent. So I'm missing a bolt for the shelf, which is kind of important. I mean, there are enough other bolts that I can get by without it. But it's one of those things where it's like, if you're gonna pay this much money for a top tier anything, you hope that all the parts are gonna come in as they're supposed to. Same thing with the monitor stand. I really like the monitor stand. It's really cool. It attaches to the wall. The mic stand and the monitor stand sort of slide in next to each other, which is great, but it's also missing a screw or a bolt. It's like a hexagonal furniture bolt that I had to go to the hardware store and find on my own, but it's like, why am I missing pieces for this really expensive booth? That's really my only, that's my main hang up, honestly, is it's like, the little things. It's like the booth is great, the booth fit together well, but if I can't screw the monitor stand into the wall, then how am I gonna monitor myself in the booth? Another thing that's also kind of commonplace, everyone sort of knows this already, but you have to treat the door. This is a body pillowcase full of rock wool. I got that idea from a couple of other people, Dracomies, who's on Voice Acting Club, and Jun Yoon, who everybody knows just from being around. This is actually hung up on the door with command hooks. I've got 4 of them because 3 wouldn't cut it. They started falling off, but if you distribute the weight across 4, you can hang one of these on the door, and it works because I sit down. I don't normally stand like I'm standing now. I usually am a bit lower, so this bit of mass really helps with recording. Be ready for the delivery. That's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about, or at least they kind of gloss over when they do their StudioBricks videos, which I don't have it in my video, but be ready for that delivery. The way mine worked is a guy rolled up in a truck, got the pallet off the truck with one of those hand forklift things, and dropped it at my front door. Professional assembly was not available in my area, so I had to figure out how to get this thing into my house, and I was also stuck with a wood pallet. A little bit of backstory. The reason I got this booth in the first place is because I moved. I moved states. I moved from California to Oregon, and moving to a place that you don't know, moving into a place sight unseen, I opted to move into an apartment. So yeah, the StudioBricks was sort of a necessary purchase because I do a lot of screaming and big noises in this booth, and having that extra isolation was really important for me at the time. So, after years of hemming and hawing about it and just talking about it, my partner was like, just get the damn thing. And I was like, are you sure? It's so expensive. And she's like, dude, you book enough to justify the purchase? And I use it in all different parts of my professional life anyway. Voiceover is not just the only voiceover, voice acting is not the only voiceover part of my life. I also do instructional design, which requires voiceover. Well, it requires voiceover in the sense that most people outsource it. I'm very fortunate that I have married those 2 parts of my life. So yeah, going back to the delivery, I got stuck with a big wooden pallet, so that lived on my back patio for a while. Lots of cardboard that I wasn't really prepared to break down, lots of foam inside that cardboard, and the pieces are heavy. A lot of the normal wall pieces you can lift by yourself, but the door, no way. StudioBricks, I love you, but those videos that you put out online of one person assembling the whole thing, bogus. That guy has to be Captain America because some of these pieces are just ridiculous heavy. The part of the video where the guy just, oh, boop, the door's in place, or, oh, I'm just gonna slide the ceiling on. Absolutely not. Do not try that at home. It is absolutely dangerous. So I hired a couple of guys, found local movers on Craigslist, and they turned out to be really cool, so we just kind of spent a couple hours building this booth, and it was awesome. I'm neither big nor strong, so there was no way I could do this by myself, but I'm really fortunate that the movers turned out to be super cool, and they had a blast. We talked about voiceover and voice acting, and they built this thing with, the help of our instructions, and I'm super thankful to them, and if and when I ever leave this apartment, I'll call them back to dismantle it, so. Oh yeah, another damaged part, the light. Like, you know, everyone does different lighting in their StudioBricks. Most people do. But it comes with like this aluminum light. Then you're supposed to stick it like above the door, like it's supposed to adhere right here. And it's just sort of this strip light. Not much, which is why people opt to do something else. I'm doing a ring light over here that stands on the shelf, but it came dented. I couldn't even adhere it to the ceiling because the aluminum backing to it was just dented and now won't. There's no flat surface to it anymore, which kind of sucks. So yeah, that's another one of those things that I get a little miffed on. Like, some of the bolts are bent, the light was bent, and it's like, dude, booth costs a lot of money. Like, don't skimp on the small essential parts. Like, yeah, you know, don't skip on any part, because if, you know, one of the walls was cracked, then still can't use it anyway. But I don't know, those last finishing touches kind of annoy me a bit. Oh, and one more thing. There was a wall, and I think it's this wall, where, because these kind of move into place, and there are dowels on the top parts and holes on the bottom parts, so they sort of clip together, in addition to other mechanisms that hold these pieces together. However, there was a part where one of these walls had a dowel sticking up, but the wall that it came into didn't have a hole to connect in. So there was nothing to be done as far as getting it together. Like, we were kind of at a standstill, and luckily one of the movers was like, "Do you have a bread knife?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." So we got the bread knife, and he literally just sawed off one of the dowels, and it worked. But that was also a really weird thing to contend with. Anyway, those are my super nitpicky things that I didn't find very reassuring about the StudioBricks. But that's all to say that I love this thing so much. This is definitely my favorite voiceover purchase. Yeah, I know I've got a cool interface, I've got a really cool microphone, you know, all that stuff. But this changes things for me, and I'll talk about that now as to why I like this so much for the non-traditional reasons. Like, everyone talks about, like, oh, it sounds great and it's so easy. I'm gonna go into some more conceptual things, I think. Now, you know what, scratch that. Let's go into the more traditional stuff. First and foremost, the noise control is fantastic. My partner watches TV like she's going deaf, and before that was kind of a problem. I had to like weatherproof my office door and, you know, really do my best to control as much of that noise as possible. I do not have to worry about that in this booth anymore. And thankfully, too, I have some sessions in the early morning where I do sometimes have to scream my guts out. You know, I'll work with ADR companies across coasts, across the world, and sometimes that means big, loud noises. And so when my partner's asleep at 6 in the morning and I'm in here screaming my guts out, she's sound asleep. No big deal. The noise floor obviously comes along with that, which means lower gain. I don't have to worry as much about clipping. I can boost more in post and not have to worry about extra noise and stuff coming in. So those are some really practical things. Another practical thing is this mic arm is super cool. Like, I don't know, I wish I could talk about this endlessly. Like, it's sturdy, it's easy to maneuver, it looks nice, it feels nice. I don't know, I really like the mic arm, like a whole bunch. The shelf itself is also really cool. Like, even though it's missing a bolt, it's still really sturdy. I just shook it a bit and now the camera shook. But it's really nice. I thought I was gonna have to buy an extra desk, but I don't. This is really cool. I really like the shelf. There's a lot of space. There's just enough space for the interface, the mouse, the keyboard. I've got a ring light in the corner here. The monitor stand is not on the shelf. It's also attached to the wall, so I don't have to worry about that. But I'm really satisfied with that thing. Like, even though I went on about the one bolt that's missing, I am super stoked about the shelf, period. It's really cool. I also really like this eco-friendly treatment. So if you may notice, my StudioBricks doesn't look like a lot of StudioBricks videos that you're going to find. This is their new eco-friendly acoustic treatment. Really cool, made from like 100% recycled material. It does up the cost of the StudioBricks a little bit, so if you've been hearing quotes from people who got theirs in like 2020, it's more expensive now, so just be ready for that. One more negative in the StudioBricks column. The bass trap right back here is really cool, and it works really well. However, the Velcro glue, the thing that holds the Velcro pads to the bass trap, fell off. So I had to run and buy super glue to re-adhere the Velcro to the bass trap to then stick to the wall. I think that one might be a result of them doing this new eco-friendly material and not exactly knowing which glue works for this type of thing or which Velcro to buy to make that suitable. So I'm gonna let that one pass, but just be aware that you've got little things like that to contend with. However, it is absolutely worth it. My my happiest part about this is that it just feels different. I've done the blanket fort, I've done the closet, I've done the self-made booth, using wood and 2x4s and stuff. This is a liminal space. When I come in here, I feel transported to wherever I am supposed to go. And that's big for me. Like, I usually turn off the ring light so it's kind of dark, and I can kind of get in the headspace that I need to get into to really deliver the performances I need to deliver to satisfy clients and do characters justice. And that's important to me. A lot of actors who are better than I am can just do that wherever. And while I've gotten a lot better at doing it over the course of this part of my life, having a space that's conducive to it helps me personally a lot. So that is also really, really big. I love being in here, and that's big. I know some VAs who are like, oh, I'm in the booth and I'm sweaty and I'm gross and I just hate being in there, and I don't know, like, I like this little space a lot. So that's definitely worth part of that price for me. Couple of other things to mention before we sign off on this thing. I did opt to not install the ventilation system. I just sort of plugged up the holes where the ventilation goes. I may change my mind on that, but I moved to a colder climate. So it's really not a big deal for me to have the ventilation in there. Plus, I can't run it while I'm recording anyway. Like, yeah, it's great to have that air circulating and stuff, and I'm already kind of getting sweaty now because it is summer in Oregon, but in between takes and stuff, just open the door for a few minutes. I can already feel cold air coming in. I feel good. If an engineer or director on the other side is doing something, I just pop this open. When they're ready to go, close it. Another thing too, I just love how easy the door is to open and close. It all comes as one piece. It's like 300 pounds, but I don't have to worry about hinges being weird or anything that I've done incorrectly by building it myself. It's just there, and it's good, and it works. And lastly too, I can put some things on the roof of this thing. I don't put a lot of stuff on there, but like, I am in an apartment and I do have less space than I did before. So a couple of things that I couldn't necessarily find a place for that were light, like a few computer monitors that I need to keep but not get rid of, live on top of this StudioBricks now. So I'm pretty excited that I can utilize that space. I wouldn't put a bunch of stuff on there. This is, after all, a very expensive booth, so I don't want to take the risk of putting something on top of this and then having it damage the top of this booth if I ever decide to sell it down the line, which I hope I never make that decision. I love this thing. Anyway, I do have some other thoughts, like, do you need a StudioBricks? Which my answer is a resounding no, but that's probably some philosophical waxing for another video. But in the meantime, I do have one of these. It's really cool. If you're on the fence about buying one and have the means to buy one, I say do it. I did the One Plus. I like having the extra space. If you really want one and can't afford one, don't fret. You do not need one of these. But if you can get one, and you really think it will help some of those things that you already know that you want, and some of those things that maybe I mentioned that might help you more conceptually than anything else, then yeah, I mean, I'm really stoked with this purchase, so. But then again, I also know that it's going to pay for itself in a short amount of time, so I'm not hurting for the money that I spent on this thing. But don't put yourself in debt to get one of these things thinking that it's going to be the magic cure-all. Anyway, I'm getting into stuff that's not important. About a StudioBricks. I love it. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.